hate you again.
Oh, I didn't realize you're wearing green.
What? What's wrong with green?
It's kind of matching with my burgundy.
Oh, I'm going to change.
Harry.
One of us has to change. The last thing I want to do is match with you.
And we are back
Again.
With How Can You Say That? Segment 26, Part 2. And John and I are still fighting over what the topic should be. And since the topic John says is too vague, we've decided that John thinks that current affairs with little bits and pieces is too much of a vague topic. But for now, we're just going to discuss current affairs, little bits and pieces, and I guess
totally ignoring all of my opinions and feelings. As usual, I'm used to that with you.
It's going to go, when don't I ignore your feelings?
No, whatever.
So we're back, and
I was going to say something really mean and hurtful, but I'm not going to say
please go ahead.
No.
When don't you?
Because you'll just edit it out.
Ah, the beauty of being the one who decides what is going out there.
Correct.
Not my fault that he doesn't know how to edit. Not my fault that he does not know how to do anything other than sit beside me, try to look pretty, be a man boy, and blow hot air.
I think I mentioned on the last podcast, I don't care for you very much.
Oh, John.
I stand by that statement. In fact, I care less and less about you with each passing podcast.
And I have to grin and bear it for 30 minutes. So
oh, be quiet.
So there you go.
You're lucky to have me here. Let's move on. Okay, let's get into this again. So we were talking about on the last podcast, we were talking about some events that are in the news with certain celebrities and being accused of certain horrible sexual acts and rapes and things like that. And, you know, I was thinking also.
You can't use that word.
Every word I say, I can't use. Should I talk Hebrew? Oh, Shani Gaber. What? What do you want me to do? You want me to talk Hebrew?
I do.
Ani holech le'eretz Yisrael b'shvil ha'chasana hayeled sheli Jordan ve'ani lo yachol la'sot podcast b'shvil shtei shavuot ki ani holech le'eretz Yisrael. Is that better?
I do not set the algorithms for the platform.
Algorithm, schmalgorithm. So what I just said in Hebrew is actually, I will not be here for the next podcast. You have an opportunity to substitute in or rotate in someone that you think is better, because I will be in the Holy Land for my son's wedding, who's getting married next Thursday, and I'll be off for the week, traveling to Israel. So there's your opportunity to fill these very, very little shoes that you say I have. Tiny little shoes, you can fill them with someone's big feet.
Forever.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, so congratulations to Jordan and Adina on their upcoming wedding. Very much looking forward to that. So we were talking about
Can I just say something really quick? John wanted to discuss the Me Too movement, and I thought that it's been over discussed and people are probably tired of hearing about it.
I think people are tired of hearing you.
Since we are discussing current affairs and what's happening with RB in some ways is connected to Me Too, because it's women coming out of the woodwork making accusations. And like I said in the previous segment, I don't know, I was not there. And so I thought I would mention Me Too and just mention how it got started. And it was started in 2006 by an African activist called Tarana Burke. And she did this to help women to stand up for themselves. And
so before her, women didn't know how to stand up for themselves?
Apparently not.
That's interesting.
But the thing that's so amusing about some of these things, and listen, I'm a woman and I'm all for women empowerment. But I think like everything in life, people take things to the extreme. Some people are opportunists and they hear of something, they're like, oh yeah, that person did this to me. And suddenly everybody's crawling out of where to say who did what to them. And Jonathan, I thought we could start this segment with this discussion. Why is it? And listen, I have had men violate me several times in my life. And I could have gone and done something about it. But you know what? Number one, I hate controversy. Number two, I can handle my own. And I decided that it probably was better to let it go and avoid those people, right? Some women have had really heinous things done to them by men. And my question is, why do they wait 10, 12, like in the Bill Cosby case? Why don't they do something when it happens?
Well, there's a possible answer for that. Maybe what
Okay.
they're saying isn't true. I mean, it's not so out. Don't make the assumption. See, here's the thing about the Me Too movement. The Me Too movement all of a sudden started with the belief system that whatever the woman says is correct, and that it's true. That's the basic foundation of the Me Too movement. They're coming forward with allegations, but they're not really allegations. They're factual events of what happened, and you believe me because this is the Me Too movement. Well, guess what? I'm starting the Not Me movement, and that's the men's version of Me Too. And that means it was not me, the one you're accusing of doing those things to you. It's not me. And I would like the burden of proof to be on you to prove that it was me in the Not Me movement. And what the Not Me movement is going to be is the movement of men fighting back against these allegations, saying, it wasn't me, not me, sorry, because this happened 20 years ago. Where is your physical evidence of anything happening? Where is the semen-stained dress? Where is the DNA? Where is the clothing I left behind? You have nothing. So it's your word against mine. I'm not assuming you're right. You should assume I'm right. The Not Me movement.
Well, the thing that's sad about this is there are women that have really been victimized.
And there are
And
men that are being
really-
victimized that have not actually done what they're being accused of.
I can't get my sentences complete.
You can get them complete. Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
have to deal with your annoying voice creating havoc with the sensitivity of my eardrums for 1 hour.
30 minutes.
Oh, it's been an hour.
30 minutes.
Anyway, it's just very sad because there is no way to really make these types of situations right. Like, how do you know when someone is telling the truth or when someone is not telling the truth? But when something happened 10 years ago, and then someone was being accused 10 years later, and every person that they probably interacted with, and I'm saying probably because I wasn't there, is coming out to accuse them, it makes you really wonder if it's a witch hunt.
Well, yeah, again, we said no physical evidence, no witnesses, no nothing. You say I did this, I say I didn't. Why do we believe you? Why is the woman generally the one that is believed and not the man?
But that's
See,
not
that,
the
but that's
question we should be asking.
well, it's as a man, it's a question that I'm asking.
The question we should be asking is, how come we condemn people based on accusations reported by mainstream?
Well, okay, so here.
Why do we accuse so many people before they even get to court?
Well, part.
Johnny Depp and Amber Heard is a good example.
Okay, yes, wonderful example. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't finished asking the question.
You asked the question. I tried to give you an answer. You asked the next question.
I was not finished asking the question.
It's you pause. That's the end of the question. Once you pause.
Oh, okay. All right. You have the answer listening. You interrupted me.
Well, because now I forgot already.
Oh.
Which is your game to make me forget my points.
Oh, so I'm controlling your dimension?
You try to control everything. That's actually what you do. You are a control monster.
Anyway, as I was saying, I think that part of the problem with this world is that we are all being groomed. Something is posted out there, something is thrown out there, and it's like there's a shepherd or shepherds on either side of the trail with a stick, just beating the flock toward the middle. Like, this is where we want you to go. This is what you have to believe. This is what we're telling you. Forget the facts. believe this because we are reporting it to you. And the problem is when we can see that we are being herded and fed and we don't buy into it.
Oh, I
So
remember what I was
the
gonna say.
other part of this, okay, I'm gonna stop so John can say what he was going to say.
How kind of you. So
When he
nice.
got the brain, you know what?
So I think part of this is also the tainting of a person's reputation. When you accuse somebody of something, even if it's false, that person is still tainted. Like if I say to a friend of mine, Jenny, she's really nice, but she's a pedophile. She likes 5-year-old boys. Now, it's obviously not true. I mean, I think
He's
it's not
actually
true.
accused me of this in real life.
I didn't. Liking children? What the hell is wrong with you, sick freak? So even if it's proven to not be true, you're still tainted because people, do they really know it's not true? I mean, they know it's not true, but they still think, well, maybe there's a slight possibility that it's true. So when a man, and it's generally the men being accused of these things, because men aren't like women. We're not babies like that. If a woman walks by me in my office and smacks me on the ass, please, if I walk by a woman in my office and she smacks me on the ass, my reaction is going to be, oh, what'd I do to deserve that? That was cute, thanks. If a woman's standing there and she's grabbing my leg or she's trying to hug me, okay, it's an affectionate thing. It's not, why am I getting offended by that? But when the shoe is on the other foot and the man is doing it to the woman, all of a sudden it's a whole crime. It's harassment. It's, you're going to lose your job. It's sexual harassment. Blah, 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 blah. It's the difference between the genders of how we react to those things is very, very different, which is why the majority of these accusations are against men, because men don't report things like that because we're actually flattered by it. If I'm walking in an office and a woman smacks my ass, to me, that's a compliment. It means she's attracted. She saw something she liked. I don't take that personally. I almost want to turn around and say, thank you. May I have another?
It reminds me of when I was a little girl and I grew up in a home with 2 sisters and 4 brothers. And I remember my mom having a conversation with me where she was trying to teach me what was wrong or what was right. And I grew up in a very secluded rural area, so we were very protected. But these words left an indelible mark on my mind because she told me, remember this, what your brothers will do and it will make them famous, you do it and it will make you a whore. And this is the sad world that we live in. I was hoping by now this wouldn't be true, but I see some of it still in the world today because I think that some of these indoctrinations have been so inbred in us that some men do feel entitled to do some things because they say, but I'm a man. And I think the problem with the world is there's still people who think like this, and there are women now who are behaving like this also. My thing is, if you've been violated, why don't you go and report it when it happens? And I've thought a lot about it, and I'm wondering if it could be because one woman has stepped forward to make this claim, the other people who feel that they're also victims feel empowered because they will have the support that this one person is now having by coming.
But everybody's definition,
that's what I'm wondering.
Everyone's definition of being violated is different. It's very subjective. If I say to you, if I see you in the studio and I go, wow, that outfit looks great on you. It really shows your figure. I mean, you have a really nice figure. Like taken out of context and put in a courtroom, and taken out of the way I said it in the context of a friendship and talking to someone that you're a coworker or whatever, it might sound very creepy. But in the proper context, it's part of natural conversation. Men and women are men and women. They act certain ways with each other because that's how we were built. That's how God designed us. That's how the process works of men and women being friendly. Guys don't talk to guys the same way guys talk to women for the most part, and vice versa. Women don't interact with each other the same way they would interact with men. We always have to remember we are still men and women, and there's an underlying difference between us there's an underlying possibility of attraction and things happening between them. And that's just human nature. That's how we were produced by God. So when you take certain situations, you put them in a workplace, let's say, and they're natural things that are said between friends. Taken out of context, they could sound very, very bad and almost creepy in a way. So, and then also everyone's definition of their line of what's okay and what's not okay is also very different. A lot of it depends on personality. A lot of it depends on the dynamic of the relationship or lack of relationship with the person you're interacting with. If there's some creepy woman at work that keeps suggesting or hinting that she wants to go out to dinner with you, oh, I know you're married, but so what? Let's just go out as friends. But you know what the ulterior motive is there. Then, you know, maybe that's something that I'm going to push back against. Maybe it's something that's making me a little uncomfortable. Or maybe it's not. In a different situation when it's a woman I'm attracted to versus someone I'm not attracted to. Put the same situation for the woman at work, where a man keeps, you know, walking by going, you know, touching your waist or touching your arm, touching your shoulder. You know, he may be doing that in a genuinely friendly way that he does with everyone. And you may not be used to that dynamic. You might be like, oh, that's gross. Don't touch me. Other women, maybe you could give them a hug and they love that. It's very subjective. There's no black and white ground rules for how this is done. And that's part of the problem, because when there's no rules and there's a lot of gray, it opens up a lot of area for interpretation. And that interpretation out of context can be awful. But if you actually watch the video of how it transpired, it might be quite harmless.
Well, I think the other thing that's a problem is now everything is sexual harassment.
Correct.
You hug a person, you compliment a person. It is so difficult. You have to walk eggshells now, because if you tell someone they look beautiful and it makes them uncomfortable, then they can report you for sexual harassment. And I've seen some sexual harassment accusations that I'm just shaking my head. We're living in a really crazy time, because it feels like we almost have to become the robots we're creating, because we're not allowed a lot of room for humanness.
That's the point. You're taking all of the human nature out of it, and you're making the situations unnatural, where people have to walk around like this. Hi, good morning. How are you? Oh, wait, is it okay to say good morning to you? It was okay to say hi. Like, everything becomes so uncomfortable. And, you know, again, I know with me in my office environment, there are people that I have 20-year, 25-year friendships with versus new people that start that you don't know. There's no dynamic there. The things you could do and say with a 25-year friendship of the opposite sex is very different than someone that just started a month ago and you don't know them and they don't know you, and you make the same comment to them and they look at you like you're insane. So again, it's not only the dynamic, it's the context of the relationship or lack of relationship that's part of the differentiating factor between appropriate and inappropriate. And wait, I just want to say one other thing. And all workplaces now have this mandatory like sexual harassment training. You know, you did that the other day, right? And again, you look at some of these things and they're so bizarre and uncomfortable and weird, and like you literally are taking things that should be natural and making them uncomfortably unnatural, and that's not a good thing for society.
Well, unfortunately, what's happening is there's so much division in the world, and we're even being divided further by these types of rules. I think I'm a hugger, and I love to hug everyone. I feel like it's innate. It's an unnatural part of, well, it's a natural part of me, but it's an unnatural thing to do in today's world.
Correct.
Because if you hug someone, it's sexual harassment. So you almost have to rewire who you are. And it's tough because it's something that I do instinctively.
But it's very different if you walk around the office hugging men and I walk around the office hugging women. The way I'm looked at as a creep. No, you're looked at as maybe overly friendly.
No.
Yeah.
Jonathan, it's the same. You're not allowed to hug men. Men not allowed to hug women.
But I'm pointing out the difference. If I walk around hugging women versus you walk around hugging men, you're looked at as maybe overly friendly. I'm looked at as a creep. There's a difference.
But you are a creep.
I can be a creep at sometimes. I'm not saying I can't be.
Ah, so here is what I think from where.
I know one person I'm not going to walk around hugging.
Thank God.
You.
Thank God, because I don't want.
Oh, there's something in your nose over here. Don't know.
Will you
No,
stop?
it's sticking out of your nose. It's like a piece of snot.
John,
Let me take it out.
There's nothing.
See, that would be viewed as inappropriate in the workplace. You see?
There's nothing in my nose, you ridiculous, annoying man boy. Anyway, you know, when you look at this, all these stories that have been coming through our court systems that we're paying for, whichever country this is happening, it really makes you wonder, like, how much of this, how many more of these are we gonna have to waste taxpayers' dollars on, right? And I feel like they should make a rule that if you're raped or assaulted, or you go straight to the police and you put a time frame on it. After 3 years, it's
called
not
the statute of
admissible.
limitations. It exists.
Well, it's for 10 years, right? Then
Depending on what the alleged incident is.
last I checked, I think I saw it was like for 10 years.
Well, no, in certain instances, they remove that statute of limitations to be able to go back further.
Well,
Damn Democrats.
I feel like it's a really, really weird place that we're living in, because I was going to make this point, he interrupted me.
I'd say anything.
Let me make this point. Sometimes things are also subjective. Sometimes something can happen between a man and a woman, and she sees it this way, and he sees it another way. And what I've noticed is when people are being tried, attacked, whatever, the people that are behind that are pushing these situations to try to bring down whomever, they have done worse. But because they're powerful, they get to sit in their,
they get a free pass
and direct the traffic to destroy one person.
Correct.
When they are doing far worse.
Correct.
But because they hold a certain social standing, the laws do not apply.
Well, until they start taking conservative positions. Remember this.
That okay.
It's not.
And how can you guys be okay with that?
It's not.
Shouldn't the rules be for all of us, regardless of our last names or families or social standing? Why are there rules that are separate for some and then applicable to others?
Well, the rules are different for men and women, even.
It's just mind-boggling and very disturbing. And like I've said in previous podcasts, I am definitely a humanitarian by nature, and I can't help myself. I can't help being bothered by the injustices. And I know I will die and leave them. But I'm hoping that if more and more people are becoming conscious and aware, that somehow it will somehow cause some of this to subside and start, some reform of some kind. Because for me, the definition of insanity, and I think it's true for many, is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. I think that we need to start putting laws in place to control these situations, because we're destroying people who can be innocent, and maybe that's the intention.
It is the intention.
But until a person has been tried and proven guilty, they're innocent.
They get tried in the media instead.
And we can't keep destroying people like this.
I
was listening to a podcast where, I don't interrupt you. Let me finish saying what I'm saying. I was listening to a podcast where Johnny Depp was talking about how difficult it is for him to recover from his and Amber Heard's trial. And so many people were saying that he was guilty, and, they had him nailed to the cross before he even went to court, because they didn't like him. And so I just really hope that people will give accused people a chance to be proven guilty before we write them off
Do you know where
and
this?
destroy them.
Do you know where this whole? It actually didn't start with the Me Too movement. It actually started with divorce, because that's the same playbook in divorce, where one spouse makes accusations against the other spouse to try to gain the upper hand in a divorce. The Me Too movement actually just copied the divorce playbook from that standpoint and expanded on it. It's very similar. But what I also want to say is the problem with these allegations from 20 years ago and 15 years ago is that the world was very different then. Workplaces are not the same now as they were 20 years ago. 20 years ago in a workplace, you were able to do a lot of other things that you can't do now. There were certain, I mean, I'm not going to say you were able to sexually harass someone, but you were able to speak more freely. You were able to use your hands more freely. A woman didn't get offended when you put your arm around them. It was just part of socially acceptable norms. But if you apply today's standards to things from 20 years ago, it takes a very ugly turn at times. For example, even if you're looking at, let's say, use the example of slavery. Slavery is a horrible, unacceptable thing right now, but in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, slavery was very acceptable. So, again,
And
the
why
world,
was that?
that's just how the world was.
No, because of ignorance.
No, I'm not
Because
condoning
people
or
no, it wasn't
I'm not.
okay.
Wait, this is my time. This is my time. I'm not condoning that it's okay, because it's not.
time.
I'm not condoning that it's okay. I'm simply saying that was acceptable behavior at the time in society. Okay. The president of the United States George Washington had slaves. That's just what people did at the time. But if you apply today's standards to now, those people were horrible, disgusting individuals. And again, maybe in certain cases it was, but society was different. You can't apply current standards to past times where they were worked under a different set of rules. That's all I'm saying. So bringing up 20-year allegations of a guy doing something that might be considered as inappropriate now might have been perfectly acceptable at that time.
When did we stop being a democracy? When did we stop having freedom to believe, to choose, to speak? When and why?
Because I don't know. I don't make those rules.
I am so sad. I have no rights anymore. Someone please send me the rule book.
You said you were sad. I'm wiping the tears away.
I didn't say I was crying. John and I thank you so much for watching us and listening to our ramblings. Hopefully,
Well, your ramblings, my factional statements.
or you see our point of view. We're not here to sway you either way. We are just sharing our views with you and hoping that they resonate. But if they don't, thank you for watching us anyway. And we will be back with segment 27 when John returns from Israel. Because no, I won't be replacing him, because I will never find another man who is a perfect boy again. And we will see you next time. Thank you for watching. How can you say that? The show where we are raw and authentic. And we'll see you next time.
We most certainly will. And thank you, Vicky, for the mugs. Love them.
Thank you. Vicky and Jessica. How could we forget Jessica?